the video shows that Meghan gets basically snubbed by David Foster on the red carpet.
She was deliberately blocking her because she was transfixed on David with that big, feral sort of grin that she has.
This mortifying snub by David Foster on the red carpet in Canada over the weekend.
Meghan Markle publicly snubbed by David Foster. Let's look at this. David Foster, who Harry has said is a father figure to him. They're at David Foster's event and he just ices her. He blanks her. Harry lets it happen.
David Foster, come on, you're an accomplished guy. You've got a lovely, successful wife and the former American Idol contestant Catherine McPhee. You don't need to be doing this, mate. You know how awful they are.
There are some celebrity moments you can explain away, and then there are moments that get explained so aggressively that the explanation becomes a bigger story than the moment itself. That is exactly what happened after Meghan Markle and Prince Harry appeared at David Foster's charity event in Canada. A few seconds on a red carpet turned into a full-blown media storm. And critics now say the real disaster wasn't the awkward moment itself. It was what happened afterward. Because once the cameras caught that interaction, the Sussex camp suddenly had a much bigger problem. And the more people tried to explain it, the more attention the incident received.
Doubly fascinating about this is Harry, when he and Meghan made their freedom flight on Tyler Perry's private jet to Montecito, Harry said that David Foster was his American father figure. So for David Foster to just blank Meghan like that, just ice her out.
So what actually happened, and why has this tiny red carpet moment become such a damaging story for Meghan Markle? Let's get into it. The event itself was supposed to be about charity. David Foster was hosting an event connected to his foundation, an organization focused on helping children who need life-saving organ transplants.
We come to what actually went on in Canada. There are a couple of things that you have been across that I just want to share. So you post on X, I have just seen these two images together.
Meghan and Harry attended as guests, and on paper, this should have been a fairly straightforward celebrity appearance. Harry also has a long-standing connection with David Foster. In fact, Harry has previously described Foster as something close to an American father figure. That detail makes the footage much more interesting. Because when Meghan and Harry reached the red carpet, the cameras captured a moment that immediately sent social media into overdrive.
You remember why the Fosters and Meghan had a falling out. Meghan hitting on David like a feral cat on heat. You replied, yeah, and giving a press release and inviting the paparazzi when they went out to dinner. And you can see there that headline, surprise, surprise, People magazine, Tash, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry double date with Catherine McPhee and David Foster in Montecito.
David Foster walked toward the photo area. Meghan appeared to extend her arm toward him, and instead of stopping for the expected greeting, Foster continued moving. Harry and Foster then interacted, while Meghan appeared to be left standing awkwardly for a moment before moving back toward Harry. It lasted only seconds. But those seconds were enough. The clip spread. Commentators slowed it down. Viewers watched it repeatedly.
Okay, there's she and Harry. And he walks right past her. She tries to reach her arm out, and he does not want to do the hug. He just keeps going. Then they go back. They have the photo. No, it's a no. There's not going to be any hugging. Now, the Daily Mail is reporting they reached out to him, and no, that it wasn't a snub. They didn't mean that. Somebody on his team said, oh, they're very close, and they would never snub anybody.
And suddenly, what should have been a charity event became a conversation about Meghan Markle. That is the first part of the problem. Because whenever a couple attends a major public event, the expectation is that the event itself will be the headline. The charity, the cause, the people being helped, the work being done. Instead, the conversation became, did David Foster snub Meghan Markle?
Now, of course, everything that we have all seen with our own eyes, and I've watched that thing in slow motion like a million times. It's hilarious.
He sees her.
He sees her.
He claims he didn't see her. You can see his eyes look at her. Because later he's like, oh, I didn't see her.
We see you, David. We see you icing her out. We see you talking to Harry literally behind her back. Like he reaches back rather than forward to avoid any even eye contact with Meghan.
And once that question took over, the Sussexes were dealing with a completely different story. Some commentators were absolutely convinced that the footage showed a deliberate snub. Others were far more cautious. They pointed out that a short red carpet clip doesn't tell us everything that happened before or after the cameras were rolling, and that distinction matters, because David Foster's side pushed back against the idea that he deliberately ignored Meghan.
It feels to me, and this isn't just about Canada, it's also about Portugal, it's also about Scotland. It feels to me that Harry and Meghan are devastated that the paparazzi have just given up, that they're not interested enough, they can't deal with the bullshit, they don't want to be sued, there's not a big enough price tag.
Sources close to Foster reportedly told the Daily Mail that he had already greeted Harry and Meghan before the red carpet moment and simply didn't see Meghan at that particular point. That explanation might have ended the story, except it didn't. It arguably made the story even bigger. And this is where the Meghan Markle PR disaster really begins. Instead of the original video being a short viral clip, the public now had a second story. Why was David Foster's side explaining the interaction? Why did the media need clarification? And why did a tiny moment on a red carpet require such a strong public defense?
When the Daily Mail briefing didn't work, Foster forced to go on the record by Harry and Meghan, and this is why celebrities want nothing to do with these two, because mountains are constantly made out of molehills. And here was the headline. No, David Foster did not snub dear friend Meghan Markle on the red carpet at charity events. So basically, what you saw with your own eyes didn't happen, says Meghan propagandist.
According to commentators, this is exactly where the Sussex PR machine can sometimes make a bad situation worse. The original footage was ambiguous. People could watch it and make up their own minds. Some saw an intentional snub, others saw nothing. But once an official-sounding explanation entered the story, suddenly there was something new to debate. And then came the statement published through People. Foster reportedly said that he had already greeted Harry and Meghan earlier, that they were dear friends, and that there had been no awkward moment or snub.
Speaking out in defense of longtime friend Meghan Markle after a viral video misrepresented a recent red carpet moment between the two. Now again, I'll just clarify, no one is suggesting that the footage was edited. No one was suggesting that the footage was AI. He snubbed her. Now, he might regret it in this moment because it's turned into an international firestorm, but he did snub her.
He criticized media coverage that he said had misrepresented the encounter for clickbait. On paper, that's a simple defense. But critics immediately had another question. Did this statement actually help David Foster? Or did it turn a few seconds of awkward footage into an international story? That question is important because the original incident was tiny. The statement wasn't. Once the denial appeared, media outlets had a new headline. David Foster denies snubbing Meghan Markle. David Foster defends Harry and Meghan. David Foster addresses viral red carpet moment. And now everyone who hadn't seen the original clip had a reason to search for it. That is the irony.
Here's the statement, issued exclusively to People magazine. And they say the legendary producer 76 shut down reports that he snubbed the Duchess of Sussex. And here's what he said. Wonder who really wrote this. As the host of the David Foster and Friends Foundation event, I had already greeted our friends, the Duke and Duchess, at the entrance 10 minutes before the red carpet encounter. They both graciously and selflessly gave their time and went beyond to engage with everyone. Harry and Meghan are dear friends of mine. Anyone watching can see there was no awkward moment and certainly no snub. It's sad that certain media who you're talking to choose to deceive.
Sometimes the best way to kill a celebrity story is to ignore it. If nobody comments, the internet gets bored. If nobody responds, the clip disappears into the next day's news cycle. But if you issue a public explanation, you can accidentally give the story another life. And according to several commentators in the source material, that's exactly what they believe happened here. The controversy also became more uncomfortable because of Harry's relationship with Foster.
And then he said, or his people said, absolutely not a snub. He would never do that. He loves them. He loves them. But he also was a great admirer of Princess Diana. Again, we loop back to just like a mere 2 weeks ago. Diana's grave, attempting to commercialize that visit, attempting to attach herself to the remains of a woman who is buried on a private island. Her burial site is a literal symbol of giving her the dignity and solitude that she was not afforded in life. And that's what this ghoul...
Harry has previously spoken warmly about David Foster, so viewers naturally expected a warm interaction between Foster, Harry, and Meghan. Instead, the footage appeared to show Foster moving toward Harry while Meghan was left out of that particular greeting. That created an obvious question: why did Harry seem to receive the attention while Meghan didn't? And that's where the story became less about one man walking past one woman and more about Meghan's place inside Hollywood's celebrity ecosystem, because critics have been arguing for years that Harry still carries a unique kind of celebrity currency. He's the son of Princess Diana. That connection opens doors. It gives him access. It creates curiosity.
And then that's pretty much been it until now. Now, I think when you look at David's reaction alone with Harry on the carpet, Harry is the reason why they are there. And that's because David Foster, like a lot of these big celebrities and A-listers, had a lot of respect for Princess Diana, much like John Travolta. So this is Harry's free pass. And no matter what people think of Harry, this will be his free pass for the rest of his life, because a lot of people won't be able to get near Prince William for a variety of reasons, because he sees through what this is really about. It's about drawing attention, having that royal stardust.
Even commentators who are deeply critical of Harry often acknowledge that his association with Diana still gives him a level of recognition that Meghan doesn't possess independently. One commentator in the source material described Harry as still having some affection in Hollywood because he remains Diana's son, while arguing that Meghan has a very different relationship with that world. And whether someone agrees with that assessment or not, it creates an interesting dynamic. Harry walks into a room carrying the legacy of Princess Diana. Meghan walks in carrying the Sussex brand. Those are not necessarily the same thing. And the David Foster footage gave critics a perfect visual to argue their case.
Having that glitter put on. And I know that obviously a lot of us don't feel that Harry does have that stardust anymore, but for some he always will, because his mother will always be the late Princess Diana. But I think with the moment with Meghan pushing in front of Catherine, I said when I found the pictures, I was like, I don't know sometimes whether the photograph should have been the other way around, that Meghan didn't realize Catherine was behind her and then she turned. But regardless, they were greeting the couple on the carpet. So David Foster and Catherine McPhee, obviously, they are the hosts.
Harry and David Foster talking, Meghan standing nearby, and then the public debate exploding around Meghan rather than the charity. But there was another layer: Catherine McPhee. David Foster's wife was also present at the event, and commentators closely examined the interactions between Meghan, Catherine, and David. One source analysis argued that Meghan appeared more focused on David than on Catherine during part of the interaction, and that her positioning placed her between Catherine and the camera. However, even that analysis acknowledged that photographs can be difficult to interpret because the sequence and positioning may not always be obvious. That's an important distinction, because internet commentary can turn body language into certainty very quickly.
And Meghan turned her back to her regardless, whether she just come on the carpet to meet her or whether she was deliberately blocking her because she was transfixed on David with that big, feral sort of grin that she has. It's rude, but we've seen Meghan have a lack of manners across multiple events and multiple people. I mean, she even turned her back on the Queen. So Meghan does not have, I would say, great social skills. She knows where the camera is. All she cares about is her shot and is she in view. That's with regards to that. And as for the clip with David Foster blanking her on the carpet and here, he's only interested in Harry.
A look becomes a motive. A movement becomes an intention. A few seconds become a complete story, and that's where we need to separate what the camera actually captured from what commentators believe it meant. What the camera captured was awkward. What caused that awkwardness is still open to interpretation, but the reaction was undeniable. The clip went viral, and then came the explanation. And then came the counter-reaction, and then the explanation itself became part of the story. That is what makes this such a fascinating Sussex PR problem. The controversy didn't die. It multiplied, and that isn't the only reason critics are calling this a disaster.
I think for so many people, that was it. It was worse than the reclining while crossing our ankles in the limo while driving by Diana's death tunnel in Paris.
Nothing was worse than Uvalde.
Oh
Nothing
my
was
God,
worse.
I forgot about that. You're right.
No, I that for me was a before and after moment on this woman. Like, I could not believe she showed up to Uvalde and made sure she was photographed laying flowers and on camera. That everybody knows there are a lot of celebrities who helped. I'm pretty sure that's Matthew McConaughey's hometown. He and his wife, I think, were very involved there.
There's a broader pattern they keep pointing to. Whenever Meghan and Harry are involved in a public controversy, the story can become much bigger than the original incident. A small moment becomes a headline, the headline becomes a response. The response becomes another headline. Then commentators debate the response. Then supporters defend the couple. Then critics attack the defense. And suddenly, the original event is almost forgotten. That's exactly what happened here. The charity event was supposed to be the reason everyone was there. But how many people watching the coverage are now talking about the children who benefit from the foundation? How many are talking about the charity's mission? And how many are talking about whether David Foster ignored Meghan Markle?
It's absolutely insane, Dan. And it's really a replay of what happened with Martha Stewart last week. You take something, and instead of ignoring it and letting it die, you make someone come out with a statement, and all of a sudden there's second day, third day, fourth day news on something that shouldn't have been amplified at all, but they keep doing it over and over and over. And you've seen this happen, frankly, since they left the royal family. And it's the Meghan playbook in her mind, where she's saying, they never fought back for me.
That is the uncomfortable question, because Meghan and Harry don't need another story where their presence overwhelms the purpose of the event. They need stories where the cause is bigger than them. Instead, once again, the celebrity drama became the headline. And critics say that's the Sussex problem in one sentence. The brand is supposed to create attention for the cause, but sometimes the attention becomes the entire story. There is also another reason this particular incident is getting so much attention. The Foster relationship reportedly goes back years. The source material describes Harry and Meghan having previously socialized with David Foster and Catherine McPhee after moving to Montecito, including a dinner that received significant publicity. So this wasn't a random stranger walking past Meghan. This was somebody within their broader social circle.
They've said sources, and this hasn't been confirmed by David Foster's team, but sources have spoken to the Daily Mail, shocker, and said that he was very excited that Harry and Meghan were being there, but he just couldn't see them. On the carpet, literally on the spot where he was meeting other guests with the cameras, they've probably got the marker on the carpet, guests stand here for your photographs to be taken, and he apparently didn't see her. Now, this makes me laugh, Dan, because Meghan recently has just basically called Martha Stewart senile because she couldn't have heard her as she was confused, and now they've turned around and said about this, David Foster didn't see them.
That makes the footage more intriguing. If Foster were simply another celebrity at a crowded event, nobody would care. But because of the previous relationship, and because Harry has spoken about Foster in such warm terms, viewers expected something different. They expected familiarity. They expected a hug. They expected a smile. They expected the kind of interaction you see when longtime friends meet. Instead, viewers saw a moment that looked cold, and that's why the clip landed so hard. It didn't match the public image of the relationship.
You don't see them on camera. No one felt the need to make it about themselves except for her. I just want to be clear. Foster didn't say he didn't see her, but that was the speculation when the video hit. Here's what he said. Sources close to Foster, speaking with the Daily Mail, said Foster wanted Meghan and Harry there. that David genuinely just didn't see Meghan. So it was like his sources close to him said he just genuinely didn't see her. They had already said hi before the photo moment. There were lots of hugs, and David introduced the two of them to his other family there. He's always been a big fan of Diana. He would never snub either of them.
Now, Foster's explanation is clear. According to the reported account from people close to him, he had already greeted Harry and Meghan earlier and simply didn't notice Meghan during the red carpet positioning. That explanation is possible. It may even be exactly what happened. But here's the problem for Meghan. The internet doesn't judge a red carpet moment in a vacuum. People bring previous controversies with them. They remember other celebrity stories. They remember former friendships. They remember the Sussexes' long-running battles with the press. And they remember every time a seemingly minor issue became a much bigger media fight. So when this footage appeared, people didn't just watch David Foster, they watched it through the entire Meghan Markle story. That's why the reaction was so intense.
Then, by the way, Meghan pushed Catherine McPhee out the way and desperately flirted with David. We covered that on yesterday's show. The Duchess played the moment off expertly by quickly tucking her floating arm behind her back before leaning into her tuxedo-clad husband. Oh, isn't she just wonderful? However, all is not what it seemed, as sources close to Foster have now exclusively revealed to the Daily Mail the truth behind the perceived snub. Foster wanted Harry and Meghan, the exclusive insider insisted, adding that the composer genuinely just didn't see that has ever found her on the red carpet. He's always been a big fan of Diana, and he'd never snub either of them. Yeah, fan of Diana, isn't that telling? That's what you call damning with faint praise. It was a genuine moment where he didn't see them and nobody really thought much of it. It's nothing.
And then came another criticism. Why respond at all? One commentator compared the situation to previous controversies involving Meghan and argued that instead of allowing an awkward moment to disappear, the public response gave it multiple news cycles. That criticism deserves attention, because celebrity PR isn't only about defending yourself, it's also about knowing when not to defend yourself. Sometimes silence is more powerful, sometimes a story needs oxygen, and sometimes the worst thing you can do is hand the media a brand new quote. The David Foster story may have started with one awkward moment, but by the time the denials, statements, and commentary arrived, it had become something much bigger. It had become a conversation about Meghan's relationships, her Hollywood standing, Harry's continuing connection to Diana's legacy, the Sussex PR strategy, and whether their constant media presence is helping or hurting them.
We report, you decide, audience. He looks right at her as he is walking by. He clearly could have leaned in for the hug on camera, which is not the same as the hug behind the scenes. He didn't. It was a perfunctory, okay, stand here on the red carpet and be photographed. They know he's not an idiot. They all know.
That's a much bigger problem than a red carpet snub. And perhaps the most damaging part is this. Meghan didn't need to do anything dramatic. She didn't need a new interview. She didn't need a new podcast. She didn't need a new product launch. All it took was one uncomfortable few seconds on a red carpet. That's how fragile celebrity perception can be. One person walks past, one person reaches out, one person doesn't stop, and suddenly millions of people are analyzing the footage frame by frame. The Sussexes have always lived in an unusual space where privacy and publicity collide. They say they want control over their public image. But the more control you try to exert over every tiny moment, the more attention those moments can receive. And this incident is a perfect example. The original footage could have disappeared. Instead, it became a story. The explanation could have ended the story. Instead, it became another story, and now commentators are asking whether the attempt to protect Meghan's image actually exposed the weakness in that image.
Do not tell me something that I can see with my own eyes. Of course, he snubbed Meghan Markle. You know, he's not blind. You'd have to be Helen Keller to not actually work out that you were walking right past Meghan Markle in that moment. We've all, well, maybe not all of us, but we know how red carpets operate. The flashes were not going at that moment. He clearly knew who Meghan was.
That's the real David Foster disaster. Not necessarily that Foster deliberately snubbed Meghan. We cannot know his private intentions from a short clip. The real disaster is that the moment created a perfect storm around her. A viral video, a famous Hollywood producer, a long-time connection to Harry, a public explanation, a charity event, and a debate over whether Meghan was being welcomed, ignored, or simply caught in an awkward few seconds. Whatever happened behind the scenes, the optics were bad, and in Hollywood, optics matter. Because celebrity relationships aren't only about what happens privately, they're about what the public sees. And what the public saw was a moment that looked uncomfortable enough to become a headline. So perhaps the biggest lesson for Meghan Markle is not about David Foster at all. It's about knowing when a moment is better left alone. Because sometimes the most damaging PR mistake isn't the awkward moment, it's trying so hard to convince everyone that the awkward moment never happened. And that's why this David Foster episode could end up being remembered as much more than a red carpet mishap. It became another chapter in the endless Sussex media cycle. Something happens, the cameras catch it, the internet reacts, the explanation arrives, and then the explanation becomes the story. For a couple trying to rebuild their public image, that is not a great cycle to be trapped in. And now the question is whether Meghan and Harry can actually break that cycle. Because if every uncomfortable moment becomes another PR battle, eventually the public stops asking what happened. They start asking why there always seems to be a battle in the first place. And that may be the most uncomfortable question of all. So what do you think? Was David Foster genuinely distracted and unaware of Meghan in that moment, as his side reportedly claims? Or did the footage show a deliberate decision not to engage with her? Either way, one thing is certain, a charity event that should have been remembered for its cause is now being remembered for one awkward red carpet interaction. And that, more than anything else, is why critics are calling this another major Meghan Markle PR disaster. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because there is a lot more coming. And before you go, don't leave just yet. Watch the next video on screen now, where we break down another Meghan Markle controversy that had Hollywood insiders and royal commentators asking some very uncomfortable questions. I'll see you there.